Today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I take self-portraits in water. Hi, I'm Vanessa. Welcome to my channel. I like to talk about all things creative, photography related, and today I'm sharing with you how I take self-portraits in water. I'm really excited about this topic because when I started self-portraits years ago, I thought that I would not be able to take photos like this unless I had a model. I really like the look of all water photos. I just think that they look amazing. But the thought of having to set up and handle all my camera gear and also be in the water seemed completely impossible. But since then, I have done it multiple times. The first shoot that I did for self-portraits in water, I did in my bathtub. It just seemed like a really safe, private place to try and experiment with taking self-portraits in water. One of the biggest problems that I ran into with that was that I filled the bathtub with warm to hot water like I normally would if I was getting into the bath. And it tended to fog up the lenses a little bit, so that was a struggle. If you're thinking of doing self-portraits in a bathtub, just keep that in mind. You might want to have the door open so that the steam has somewhere to go, or have the water as cool as you possibly can comfortably manage. After I had my photos in the bathtub, I moved on to trying out a kiddie pool in my basement. So I just took like a pool that would normally be in your backyard for your kids, and I brought it inside and I filled it with water. I also put milk in it. I think I did some water photos and then I also did some milk photos. I've done a few different things just to play around with taking self-portraits in water within the privacy of my own home because I was not yet feeling confident enough to do that in public. Emptying out a kiddie pool that is in your basement is a huge pain in the butt. And I was using like a jug to scoop and dump out the window, one scoop at a time. It was very lengthy. I don't recommend it. If you can just do it outside, do it outside. But now I'm totally fine with going out in public. My first outside in lake photo shoots, what I did was I would pick rainy or cloudy days or take the photos in slightly an off season, like maybe in May or maybe in like September when there's not so many people at the beach. And I would pick just the most secluded spots that I could find. Now I don't care. Now I'll just go to the beach and walk around in the water and let people stare if they want to. One of the things about taking photos in public and having people see you is that I was so scared that they would judge me and think I'm weird, but at the end of the day, they just smile and laugh and they go on their way. Most people don't even say anything to me. And I know that it's probably the weirdest, strangest thing that they've seen all day. So they probably go home and be like, you guys won't believe what I saw at the beach today. And then they all have a good laugh about it. It's probably the highlight of their day. So I don't worry too much about it anymore. Even if they think that I'm weird, I know that I'm weird. It's all good. I made them smile and life is better for it, honestly, in my opinion. So the reason why I'm filming all of the talking bits at home is because the specific location that I have picked for today, it is a beach that is next to a railway and a highway. Not only that, but it is usually pretty full with tourists, even though it's COVID and people are not supposed to be here. They're here, so there's lots of talking and chattering and traffic, and I know that I won't be able to get any audio during my shoot. So you'll see behind the scenes clips, but mostly I'm gonna just have like this talking bit with the behind the scenes clips running over top. So this year, I am super excited about this location because the beach is actually flooded. We had a lot of snow and it's been particularly rainy this summer. So the lake has come up and it has swallowed the beach completely and it has flooded up into the park area and created this like amazing spot of kind of like trees and woodsy stuff going on, but there's water where there usually isn't water. So it looks really pretty. It looks really interesting. Most people are complaining about it. Most people are not happy, but a lot of the times when something not so good happens, I like to look at that as an opportunity. So when life gives you lemons, do a lemon photo shoot. There's a couple of reasons that I am really excited about the flooded area. Now the flooded area, because it kind of is sitting in an area that's not getting a lot of currents, it is more still, so the photos are able to have nicer reflection look. I can play with that a little bit. The water is a little bit warmer because it just gets to sit in that one spot and warm up from the sunlight or whatever during the day, so it's not quite as cold as being like out in the lake. It is not always there, so it's not too gross and stagnant. The water is still kind of fresh enough that I feel comfortable laying down in it. It is a little bit gross and dirty, but it's not so bad that it's going to stop me. The other thing about having the calm water is that I can set my camera up in the water, like have my tripod sitting in the water, and I don't need to worry about any sort of current coming along and knocking things around or tipping my gear over. That would be a complete nightmare. I do not set up my tripod in water that is moving at all because I don't want that to happen. So if I'm going to be doing self-portraits with water that's moving, like in a creek or even in the lake when there's a few waves, anything like that, I'll set the camera up on dry land and then have myself just in the water. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the flooding, the whole area is wet. So even where it looks like grass, it's quite mucky and soupy and squishy. So because of that, I have to make sure that I'm not bringing anything that I need to set on dry land. So for this specific shoot, I might be bringing a wagon so that anything that I can't get wet at all can go in the wagon and be kept up out of the water. So getting into a little bit of the preparations and how I got ready for this shoot, I'm going to talk about what I chose to wear, which today I chose this kind of green dress. And the reason why I chose this green dress is because it is, first of all, a light color. And when you're shooting with a dark color dress, like if it's black or a really dark blue or something, it tends to get completely lost in the water. So if you want to have any of that floating fabric look, a light color will show up a lot better. Of course, if you want to have that kind of like disappearing into the depths, mysterious type vibe, then a dark dress would be a really cool option for that. It's just not what I'm going for today. The other reason that I chose this dress is because it's not full length. It comes down to about my knees. And this enables me to be able to walk around freely. I'm not going to be tripping and struggling to move back and forth between the camera and the water and posing, or even bringing my gear into the area and potentially tripping and dropping things. That just doesn't sound very practical to me. So if I was going to be shooting somebody in lots of flowy, big, huge dress, I would probably try to use a model for that shoot rather than a self-portrait. Trying to take a self-portrait all tangled up in huge amounts of wet fabric is a huge struggle and, in my opinion, not worth it at the end of the day. There is, however, a hack that I won't be using today because this dress has also got a pattern on it. I mean, I guess I could probably find something, but if you go to the fabric store or a thrift store, or even if you just raid your linen closet and try to find a sheet or a huge piece of fabric that matches your outfit, it's the same color or maybe just complementary, so it looks like it could be part of your outfit, and having a separate detached piece swirling around you in the water is a really great way to get that ultra fabric floaty look without it actually being attached to you, and you'll be able to move around freely, and that piece of fabric just floats on its own instead of becoming a hindrance in your movement. I also chose to wear a bathing suit that kind of matches my skin tone underneath, because when you are wearing light colors and getting wet, there is the potential that it will start to be a little bit see-through, and I don't want to have anything particularly showing through underneath my dress. I just want it to look like skin if it shows through. So I went with the bathing suit that I kind of think it's hilarious. Every time I wear it, I just imagine like actually going to the beach in this bathing suit and what people from far away would think. They're like, oh my gosh, that lady. So as far as gear goes, I don't want to be messing with a lot of stuff. So I pick a single lens. I bring my tripod, obviously, and I need a remote if I'm doing self-portraits. So for this, I only use the remotes that have the separate receiver. They are a little bit stronger, so it doesn't need to be pointed directly at the camera. I can hide it. And also because I put the remote part inside Ziploc baggies. This is how I protect it from the water. I double bag it in a Ziploc bag, and it needs to have the strength to be able to connect with the receiver while still shooting through Ziploc bags. So it's a hack if you do this and somehow you didn't Ziploc your bag tight enough and water gets in. Please don't sue me. I've never had that happen to me. So far, it's always worked. If you've seen other videos of mine where I'm taking self-portraits, you know that I like to hide my remote inside my clothes. So it's probably going to go in here and just be tucked underneath the bathing suit, because the bathing suit's a little bit more snug and it'll hold it tight. Whereas if it was just in the dress, it might flop around or fall out a little bit. I have tried to do shoots with just the little point one. I actually did one and I dropped it. I've got the photos, I'll share them. I dropped it in the water and the image caught my face when I realized, like, oh crap, I dropped it. And then I grabbed it out and I pushed the button to see if it still worked, and it did, and then the camera caught my face with the relief of realizing it still worked. But even though it worked in that second, what happened was later on, because the interior was rusty from the damp, then it stopped working. But that was a really cheapy one. I think it was like $8, so I wasn't too heartbroken that I had ruined it. I also have a polarizer filter for my lens, and this is going to help with reflections on the water. So if it is a little bit of glare and I don't like it, I can use the polarizer. It's not going to be 100% perfect all the time, but it will help a little bit with the images. At least gives me some more options with what I'm looking for. I'll provide an example for you guys. I'll make sure to take a picture with it in effect and without it, so that you can see the difference between having the polarizer or not and reflections of water. The other thing that I'm doing that I maybe don't usually always do is I bring spare batteries. So anything that has a battery, I'm gonna bring extra batteries, because this is not the kind of shoot that you want to get started and then have something die on you. If you're soaking wet and you have to run to the store to pick up a battery for your remote or something, it's not cool. And for myself, I would probably just call it a day and wrap it up and not even bother going to pick up new batteries. So I want to make sure that I have this stuff here and not completely waste my effort and putting all of my time into setting up for the shoot, only to have my battery die and me pull the plug on the whole thing. So even though I don't always bring extra batteries, because sometimes I just don't care, and if I'm dry I might run home and get the batteries and then come back to my location, it's not a huge deal. But for this it would be a huge deal, so I'm just going to make sure that I have those with me. Also, I'm bringing dry clothes and a towel so that I can change before I need to come home and get in my car. I don't want to get my car all stinky and wet and whatever, so that too. So I think that I've covered everything that you need to know if you're going to be going out and trying to take self-portraits in water. If I missed anything and you have any questions or wondering, want more information about any of the stuff that I talked about, please feel free to leave a comment down below and I will definitely get to it. In the meantime, if you're not quite ready to take wet selfies, I would highly suggest checking out another one of my self-portrait videos, maybe something a little bit more dry. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.